The stars above twinkled brightly, as if nothing could go wrong in the vastness of space. But inside the sleek, alien vessel, chaos was unfolding. The craft, designed for smooth and fast travel, had been cruising through the deep reaches of space when it suddenly encountered something no one could have predicted. A massive storm of energy, invisible to the naked eye but powerful enough to cripple even the most advanced technology, slammed into the ship. The alien girl, a skilled pilot from a faraway galaxy, gripped the controls with both hands. Her long, sharp eyes scanned the instruments in front of her, panic beginning to rise in her chest as the alarms blared louder and louder. No, not now, she whispered to herself, trying to keep the ship steady. But the violent force of the storm was too much. Sparks flew from the dashboard, and the craft veered off course. Her name was Lyra, and she had been on a routine mission to explore unknown worlds. Her home planet was peaceful, a place where technology and nature coexisted in harmony. The journey to Earth was supposed to be a brief one, just a quick scouting trip. But now, as the storm raged outside, Lyra realized that her situation was far worse than she could have imagined. The ship's hull groaned under the pressure. Lyra fought to maintain control, but the storm grew fiercer. The vessel twisted and turned like a leaf caught in a whirlwind. There was no escape. She gritted her teeth, determined not to lose everything. Her eyes darted to the navigation system. If she couldn't stabilize the ship soon, they'd be sent into freefall. "Come on, Lyra, you can do this," she muttered under her breath. But just as she thought she might regain control, the entire craft shuddered violently, throwing her back in her seat. The lights flickered and then went out. The ship was plummeting into darkness. The sound of tearing metal filled the air. Lyra's heart raced as she tried to grip the seat, but the force of the impact sent her flying across the cabin. She slammed against the wall, pain shooting through her body. Her vision blurred, and for a moment, everything was a blur of flashing lights and chaotic noises. The ship's autopilot, which had been her last hope, failed as well, and all Lyra could do was brace herself for the inevitable crash. Her hand instinctively reached for the emergency beacon, but there was no time. The ground below, what was left of it, was coming up fast. Lyra shut her eyes tightly as the ship collided with the planet below. The impact was jarring, but she couldn't let herself fall unconscious. She had to survive. Her thoughts raced. Earth. She remembered the planet's name from the ancient archives, the world that was infamous for being a death world for any non-native. Legends from her people warned of its dangers, but those were just stories, right? Now, the reality hit hard. The ship's metal frame groaned, and for a moment, there was complete silence. The wreckage was scattered around her, a twisted mess of what used to be a state-of-the-art vessel. She pushed herself up, wincing as her body protested the movement. Her sharp, alien senses detected something unfamiliar. There was a strange atmosphere, one she hadn't encountered before. The air was thick and heavy, carrying the scent of something that felt wrong. The strange green trees outside the broken windows swayed, almost as if they were alive. Lyra took a deep breath, trying to gather her bearings. She was alive, but the question lingered. What now? The first thing she needed was to figure out where she was. The second thing, to stay alive. Earth wasn't like the peaceful worlds she had known. No, this was something else entirely. Something dangerous. She pulled herself out of the wreckage, her legs shaking beneath her. The pain in her side was sharp, but it wasn't enough to stop her. There was no time to waste. As she looked out at the unfamiliar landscape, her heart pounded with a mixture of fear and curiosity. She had no idea what Earth had in store for her, but she knew one thing for sure. It was not going to be easy. The alien girl, far from home, stood alone on a strange world that would soon show her just how deadly it could be. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth as Lyra stepped cautiously away from the wreckage. Her legs, still shaky from the crash, struggled to keep her steady, but her determination pushed her forward. She had no choice but to explore this unknown world. Earth, they had called it. Her people's ancient texts warned of its dangers, but Lyra had never imagined it would feel so alive. The ground beneath her feet seemed to shift, the wind howling through the trees in strange, unsettling ways. Everything was different here, wild and untamed. Her ship's emergency beacon was her first priority. She needed to send a signal to her people to get back home. But the moment she tried to access her communicator, it flickered, then died. A curse escaped her lips, the reality of her situation sinking in deeper. She was alone, stranded on an alien planet, with no way to contact anyone. As she stood there, trying to make sense of her surroundings, the sounds of the forest grew louder, more ominous. Branches cracked in the distance. She froze, her alien senses on high alert. Something was out there, watching her. Lyra's body tensed, her sharp eyes scanning the trees. She wasn't sure what she expected, but the rustling continued, closer now. Then, without warning, a creature leapt from the shadows. It was massive, bigger than anything she'd ever seen before. Its eyes gleamed with a primal hunger, and its sharp claws glistened in the dim light. Lyra barely had time to react before it lunged at her. She ducked, rolling out of its path, her heart pounding in her chest. Her advanced reflexes, honed by years of training, kicked in just as the beast swiped at the air where she had been moments ago. She scrambled to her feet, her mind racing. This was no ordinary animal. It was savage, fierce, and relentless. She barely had a chance to get a good look at it before it attacked again. Lyra gritted her teeth. She had fought in battles before, faced down enemies far stronger than this. But this creature was different. The way it moved, the way it hunted it, was as if Earth itself had birthed this beast to survive at all costs. With her back pressed against a tree, she had to think fast. The alien girl's eyes flashed as she tapped into her advanced abilities. A pulse of energy surged from her hand, striking the creature square in the chest. It yelped, stumbling back, but quickly recovered, growling menacingly. She hadn't killed it, but she'd managed to buy herself a few precious seconds. Lyra's mind was spinning. The landscape here was hostile, its creatures untamable. She needed to get away, find shelter, and regroup. The creature circled her, growling, but Lyra was already moving. She ran, her feet pounding against the soft earth, pushing herself harder, faster. She could hear the creature's claws tearing through the ground behind her, a constant reminder that it wasn't far behind, ahead. She spotted something, an opening in the dense trees, a narrow path that seemed to lead deeper into the forest. She veered towards it, praying that it would offer some escape. The chase continued, the beast closing in with every passing second. As she reached the edge of the path, something unexpected happened. The ground beneath her feet gave way, and she found herself tumbling down a steep slope. Unable to stop herself, the world spun in a blur of green and brown, and just before she hit the bottom, everything went black. When Lyra opened her eyes again, she was lying in a bed of soft moss, her head throbbing with pain. She groaned, pushing herself up, her body aching. The sky above was clear now, the sun piercing through the canopy of trees. She had no idea where she was or how she had ended up here. But one thing was clear: Earth wasn't just a death world for its creatures, it was a world of chaos. And she had only just begun to understand the depths of its dangers. The sunlight filtered through the dense canopy above, casting dappled shadows on the forest floor. Lyra's head throbbed from the fall, but the pain was nothing compared to the danger that still lurked around her. She pulled herself up from the mossy ground, her limbs stiff and aching. Her body was not built for Earth's chaotic environment, and every movement reminded her of just how far from home she was. The strange energy from her previous encounter with the creature still pulsed faintly in her fingertips. She wasn't sure how much longer it would last, but she couldn't afford to waste it. The forest around her felt alive in a way she couldn't quite explain. The trees were taller, the underbrush denser, and the air, thick with moisture, pressed in on her. Every rustle, every snap of a twig set her nerves on edge. She couldn't let her guard down, not for a second. Lyra moved cautiously through the thick woods, trying to orient herself. The landscape felt alien, but not in the way she expected. It wasn't the unfamiliar terrain that unsettled her, it was the feeling of being watched. Her sharp senses were on high alert, and the hairs on the back of her neck prickled. She could hear movement around her, the soft thud of footsteps following her from a distance. Was it the same creature, or something else entirely? A distant roar shattered the silence. The sound was low and rumbling, like thunder, but much closer. Lyra froze, her heart pounding. Whatever it was huge. It was close, and it was probably hungry. The ground beneath her feet felt unstable, as if it could crack open at any moment. Lyra wasn't sure how much more she could take. The only thing she knew for sure was that she couldn't stay here. She needed to move. Panic surged through her as she scanned her surroundings. But then, something caught her eye: movement. A shadow, darting between the trees. It wasn't the beast from before. This was something different. A flicker of hope ignited in Lyra's chest. Maybe there was something or someone out there who could help. She followed the shadow cautiously, making her way through the thick underbrush. The forest was vast, and the deeper she went, the more the sounds of the outside world faded. The trees grew closer together, blocking out the sunlight, leaving the path dim and foreboding. Lyra's breath quickened as she pushed forward, each step taking her further into unknown territory. The figure ahead of her stopped, standing perfectly still. For a moment, Lyra thought she had been spotted. But then she realized something: this figure wasn't moving at all. It wasn't even breathing. In fact, it wasn't even real. It was a statue, an ancient, weathered figure half hidden by the vines and moss, its surface covered in strange symbols. Lyra approached cautiously, drawn to the figure. The stone carving was intricately detailed, almost lifelike. It stood there, frozen in time, its purpose lost to history. She reached out to touch it, but as her fingers brushed the stone, a shiver ran through her. A strange, low hum filled the air, and the ground beneath her feet seemed to pulse. Lyra stepped back, startled. The hum grew louder, and she noticed something small, glowing markings on the base of the statue. As she studied them, the markings shifted and rearranged, as if responding to her presence. Her heart raced. What was this place? What was this statue? The hum faded, leaving behind an unsettling silence. She wasn't sure if she had triggered something, but the feeling of being watched had intensified. She needed answers, and fast. The statue, whatever it was, wasn't going to help her. Suddenly, the air grew colder, and the distant roar from earlier returned, louder and more menacing. Lyra's pulse quickened. Whatever this place was, it was a world filled with danger, and she had only just scratched the surface. With no time to waste, she turned and sprinted into the dense woods, not daring to look back. The chase was on again. Lyra ran through the forest, her breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. The sounds of the distant roar grew louder, closer. The ground beneath her feet was uneven, and every step felt like a race against time. Her mind raced just as fast. How could she survive in a world that seemed to want her dead at every turn? Her alien strength and speed were no match for the unpredictable dangers of Earth. She needed a plan, something more than just survival instincts. She weaved between the towering trees, her sharp eyes scanning the surroundings for any sign of escape. But the forest seemed endless, stretching far beyond what she could see. The roar grew louder. It was a beast, something bigger than anything she had ever encountered. Her pulse quickened as the air around her began to feel thick with anticipation. There was no doubt anymore this was not a place for aliens to land. Earth was alive with danger. Suddenly, something caught her eye: a flicker of movement ahead. This time, it wasn't a creature stalking her. It was a group of figures, humans. They were standing together, seemingly waiting for something, their faces tense and wary. The group didn't look like the chaotic, wild creatures she had encountered before. They were focused, and their eyes never left her as she slowed her pace. Lyra's first instinct was to stay hidden. Her kind had never interacted much with humans, and the stories she had heard from her people painted them as unpredictable. But desperation pushed her forward. If anyone could help her, it had to be these humans. She had no choice but to take a risk. One of the humans, a man with dark, piercing eyes, stepped forward. His posture was guarded, but he didn't attack. Instead, he raised his hand, signaling her to come closer. Lyra hesitated, but moved towards them, her heart pounding in her chest. As she stepped closer, she noticed their weapons, a mix of primitive tools and advanced technology. Clearly, these humans had adapted to their harsh environment in ways that made them unpredictable. Still, they didn't seem aggressive, but Lyra couldn't afford to trust them completely. "You're not from here," the man said, his voice low but clear, as if he was speaking to someone who could understand. Lyra nodded, her throat dry, unsure of how much she should reveal. She didn't know whether to trust him or not. His eyes studied her, as if trying to assess whether she was a threat or something else. "I'm not," Lyra finally replied, her voice rough from the dust in the air. "I need help. My ship," the man's expression hardened. "Your ship's no good here," he interrupted. "We've all crashed here before. Earth's not a place for outsiders. You've got to learn that fast, or it'll be the end of you." Lyra frowned, confused and frustrated. "But I don't understand. Why? Why is this place like this? What happened to it?" The man didn't answer right away. Instead, he motioned for her to follow him as the group moved deeper into the woods. Lyra reluctantly complied, her senses alert to any change in the environment. The humans moved with ease through the dense forest, as if they knew it like the back of their hands. Lyra felt like an outsider, clumsy and slow in comparison to their fluid movements. "Come with us," the man said. "We'll take you to a safe place, but you need to stay close and follow orders. Earth doesn't take kindly to anyone trying to go it alone." Lyra's mind raced. She had no other choice but to follow them, at least for now. The group seemed to know something she didn't, something important. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized how little she understood about Earth, its creatures, and its people. She had always thought of humans as fragile, weak beings. But what she had encountered so far shattered that belief. These humans were survivors, and Lyra had a lot to learn if she wanted to make it out of this world alive. As they walked, the strange feeling of being watched returned. Lyra's senses tingled, but it wasn't the creatures that made her uneasy. It was something deeper, something about the humans that didn't add up. She had to be careful. There was no telling what lay ahead. But she knew one thing for sure: Earth had just become her worst nightmare. The path ahead grew darker as they ventured deeper into the forest, the thick canopy overhead blocking out most of the light. Lyra's eyes adjusted to the gloom, but the eerie quiet of the woods made her uneasy. Every footstep seemed too loud in the stillness. The humans, though, moved silently, their presence almost ghostly. It was as if they were part of the forest itself, blending seamlessly with the shadows. Lyra found herself instinctively glancing over her shoulder, sensing that she was being watched not just by the humans, but by something else. The group led her to a clearing, a rare open space in the otherwise dense woods. The air was cooler here, and the ground felt softer, as though something ancient had once lived here. Lyra's senses tingled as she took in the strange symbols etched into the rocks around the clearing, half hidden by moss and vines. The humans didn't seem to notice or care about the markings. They moved past them like they'd seen them 1,000 times before. But Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that these symbols meant something important. The man who had spoken to her earlier stopped in the center of the clearing and turned to face her. "This is where we rest," he said flatly, his tone matter-of-fact. "We've learned to live with Earth's chaos. You'll have to do the same if you want to survive." Lyra's heart sank. She had no idea how to survive in a place like this. Everything about Earth was different to its creatures, its environment, even its people. How was she supposed to adapt to a world that felt so hostile, so unfamiliar? Her mind raced, trying to process everything she had encountered so far, but it was too much. Every step she took seemed to draw her further into a nightmare that she couldn't escape. She sat down on a large rock, trying to steady her breathing. The man's words echoed in her mind. Live with Earth's chaos. It seemed impossible. The storm, the creatures, the hostile humans, all of it was too much for one person to handle. But Lyra wasn't just anyone. She was a scout from a distant galaxy, trained to survive in harsh conditions. She had faced far worse challenges than this. But Earth was different. As the group set up makeshift camp, Lyra's thoughts wandered. The man had said they had learned to live with Earth's chaos. But what did that mean? How had they adapted to this savage world? She glanced at the others, observing their movements. They worked in silence, efficiently gathering food and securing their shelter. They didn't look like survivors. They looked like they had always belonged here. She stood up and walked toward the edge of the clearing, unable to shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The air here felt alive, charged with an energy that made her skin crawl. It was as if the forest itself was aware of her presence, watching her with unseen eyes. In the distance, a strange light flickered, barely visible through the trees. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. It was an unusual sight to steady, too unnatural to be a fire or any natural source of light. Her curiosity got the better of her, and she made her way toward it, moving silently through the underbrush. The humans didn't seem to notice her departure, too absorbed in their own tasks. As she neared the source of the light, Lyra's eyes widened in shock. A small, glowing orb floated in the air, pulsating with an otherworldly energy. It hovered just above the ground, casting a faint, eerie glow around the surrounding trees. Lyra reached out, her fingers brushing the air around it, and immediately the orb shifted, spiraling upward. It hovered for a moment before darting deeper into the forest, as if beckoning her to follow. A sense of urgency gripped her chest. She had no idea what the orb was or where it was leading her, but she knew she couldn't ignore it. She had to follow it. She took a step forward, her mind racing. There was something important about this orb, something that could unlock the mysteries of Earth, or perhaps even save her from this death world. Without a second thought, she pushed forward, her determination to understand this place stronger than ever. The orb led her further into the darkened woods, and for the first time since the crash, Lyra felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone on this planet. Maybe there was something or someone who could help her navigate this chaos and survive the hell that was Earth. Lyra's feet moved quickly, her steps light but deliberate as she followed the glowing orb deeper into the forest. The further she went, the more the world around her seemed to change. The trees grew taller, their twisted branches reaching toward the sky like fingers grasping for something far beyond. The air became dense, heavy with the scent of wet earth and decay, and the faint hum of the orb was the only sound that filled the silence. Everything else, every whisper of wind, every rustle in the bushes felt distant, almost muffled. As if the forest itself was holding its breath, the orb darted ahead, leading her through narrow paths and thick undergrowth. Lyra's heart raced with a mix of excitement and apprehension. She had no idea what this strange light was or why it had appeared to her, but it felt like it was guiding her, almost as if it knew she was desperate for answers. Every instinct told her to trust it. But how could she trust something so unfamiliar in a place that seemed determined to kill her? As she pressed on, the light grew brighter, casting eerie shadows on the trees around her. Soon, she emerged into a small clearing, the orb hovering just in the center. It was now glowing with an intensity that almost hurt her eyes, radiating energy unlike anything she had ever felt before. She stood still, mesmerized, trying to understand what was happening. The orb pulsed in time with her heartbeat, sending vibrations through the air that resonated deep within her chest. Then, without warning, the orb began to shift. It twisted and spiraled in midair, expanding in size until it took the form of a figure. Lyra's eyes widened in disbelief as the shape solidified before her. It was humanoid, but made entirely of light, its body shimmering and flickering like a star come to life. It had no face, no features, just a silhouette of pure, radiant energy. The figure's presence was both calming and overwhelming, its energy filling the clearing like a warm, protective shield. Lyra took a cautious step forward, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "What are you?" she asked softly, unsure if it could even understand her. The figure seemed to respond, its glowing form flickering as if it were examining her, processing her words. Then, in a voice that didn't seem to come from any particular place, but rather filled her mind, it spoke. "I am a keeper of this world, the guardian of its secrets." The voice was soothing but deep, resonating in a way that made Lyra feel as if she was hearing something ancient, something beyond her comprehension. Her breath caught in her throat. A keeper, a guardian? Was this creature, this being, what she had been searching for? The orb continued to hover, now a faint light surrounding the figure like an aura. The forest seemed to hold its breath, the world around them still. Lyra felt an overwhelming sense of curiosity flood her, but also a sinking feeling in her gut. She wasn't sure if this being was here to help or to test her. Earth is a death world, as you know, but it is also a world of transformation. The figure continued, its voice calm but filled with a quiet intensity. "It is not what it seems. It is a place of great power, a place where the very fabric of existence is torn and reformed. To survive here, you must understand this power. You must learn what Earth truly is." Lyra's mind raced. Transformation power? Earth was nothing like what she had expected. It was chaotic, dangerous, hostile. But what if this guardian was telling the truth? What if Earth wasn't just a death world, but something more, a place of change, of growth? You are not the first to come here, the figure added, its form flickering. Many have arrived, seeking answers. Some survive, some do not. But only those who understand the balance of this world can truly survive. Lyra felt a chill run down her spine. She was not the first. That meant there had been others, perhaps others who had failed. The idea that survival depended on understanding Earth's balance, its true nature, was both a relief and a burden. She had always relied on her strength and instincts to survive, but this place seemed to demand more. It demanded understanding, patience, and perhaps sacrifice. The figure extended a glowing hand toward her, and Lyra instinctively took a step back, uncertain of its intentions. But the hand wasn't threatening. It was inviting, a gesture of connection. Lyra hesitated, her breath shallow. Was this an opportunity or another trap? If you choose to learn, the figure said, its voice becoming more insistent, you must follow. Earth will not make it easy for you, but it will show you what you need to know. Lyra's gaze shifted from the figure to the path ahead, the dark, twisting woods beyond. She knew she had no choice. The answer she sought, the key to surviving this world, lay ahead. With one final, steady breath, she stepped forward, ready to face whatever Earth had in store for her. Lyra's heart pounded as she followed the glowing figure deeper into the heart of the forest, the air thick with the energy of the unknown. The path seemed to twist and shift with every step, the trees closing in around her like silent watchers, their gnarled branches scraping against each other. The only sound was the faint hum of the figure ahead of her, leading her further into this mysterious part of Earth. Every instinct she had told her to turn back, but the promise of answers, the chance to understand this world, was too strong to resist. The further they went, the more the forest seemed to change. The oppressive shadows began to thin, replaced by soft, flickering lights that appeared to be floating orbs, much like the one that had guided her here. They drifted in and out of view, their presence both comforting and unsettling. Lyra could feel their gaze on her, as though the very forest was alive and aware of her presence. At last, they reached the edge of a vast, open space. The forest cleared, revealing a strange, crystalline structure at the center. It looked ancient, almost alien in its design, with jagged spires rising up from the ground, their surfaces covered in intricate patterns that shimmered as if they held the secrets of the universe. The figure paused at the entrance, turning to face Lyra. "This is where your journey truly begins," the figure said, its voice more resonant now, as though it carried the weight of ages. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes wide as she gazed at the structure before her. It was like nothing she had ever seen, a blend of technology and nature, as though the two had fused together over centuries. The air here felt different, charged with an energy she couldn't explain. It was as though the very ground beneath her feet was alive with potential. The figure raised a glowing hand, and the doors to the crystalline structure slowly parted, revealing an enormous chamber within. The walls were lined with glowing symbols, their meanings unknown to her, but the light they emitted was warm, welcoming. She stepped inside, the floor beneath her feet humming with a low vibration. The entire space seemed to pulse with life. "Inside these walls lies the heart of Earth," the figure said, its presence looming over her. "Here you will learn the truth, not just about Earth, but about yourself. The journey you began with the crash has led you here. Now you must understand why." Lyra's mind raced. Earth, this death world, was not what it seemed. She had come here thinking it would destroy her, but now she was beginning to realize it was something else entirely, a world full of ancient secrets, powers, and mysteries that could change everything she thought she knew about survival. The figure stepped aside, allowing Lyra to move deeper into the chamber. As she did, the symbols on the walls shifted, glowing brighter with each step she took. The energy in the room intensified, filling her with a sense of urgency. She had to understand it all. Now, suddenly, a flash of light erupted from the center of the chamber, and a projection appeared in the air, an image of Earth, as seen from space. The planet's surface flickered with colors green, blue, and brown, each one representing different forces, different elements of nature. The image zoomed in, showing her a close-up of the forests, the oceans, and the cities, but beneath the beauty, Lyra saw something darker, something that had been hidden from her. Earth is not just a death world. The figure spoke, its voice now an echo in the vast chamber. It is a place of balance, of power. Those who understand this power can bend Earth to their will. Those who do not, perish. The truth struck Lyra like a blow. This world was alive in a way she had never imagined. It wasn't just the creatures or the environment, it was the very fabric of existence that made Earth so dangerous. But it also held immense potential for those who could harness its power. She had crashed here, thinking she would be destroyed, but now she saw Earth's true face. It wasn't her enemy. It was an ally, one that demanded respect and understanding. The figure stepped forward, its form shimmering with energy. "You have a choice, Lyra," it said, its voice full of finality. "You can leave this place and return to your world, or you can stay and learn how to survive, how to master the forces that shape this planet. The power is yours to claim, but only if you are willing to embrace the chaos." Lyra stood in the center of the chamber, the weight of the decision heavy on her shoulders. The forest outside was silent, but she could feel that Earth was watching her, waiting. She had come to this world thinking it was a prison, a death sentence. But now she understood. Earth wasn't just a world to survive in, it was a world to conquer. With a deep breath, Lyra made her choice. She would stay. Earth had shown her its power, its mystery. Now it was time to unlock its secrets and to prove that even in the chaos of a death world, a survivor could thrive.